Good morning, Atlanta, and happy Monday to you from the First Alert Desk here on Atlanta News First Plus. We are jumping on here with your continuing coverage as we are reporting a First Alert weather day. If you've been on the roads throughout the morning, you know it is a wet one, heavy rain, flooding, a lot of commuters feeling the impacts of today, and that is expected to continue. So that is what we're doing here, keeping you prepared and weather ready for whatever today might bring you. I want to start by getting you some looks outside at some of these road conditions taken by our team throughout the morning in various parts of the Metro Atlanta community, by the way. As you could see, several roads that are experiencing heavy flooding, water rescues underway in several areas, and more impacts that we will take you through here on Atlanta News First Plus. In the meantime, our Atlanta News First team is out on the road for you, keeping you updated, keeping you ready. We are going to take you out to reporters Rebecca Schramm, Don Shipman, Patrick Quinn, and the Atlanta News First team, as well as get you some live reports from our meteorologists. This is a live look right now. If you're looking out here, this is Marbut Road and Tafida Trail in the Reedon area. As you can see, heavy flooding that cars are passing through with extreme caution. Some vehicles in other areas of Metro Atlanta finding themselves stuck, finding themselves with water damage. Emergency crews reporting to the rescue. Just on Piedmont Road, you can see right here, this area flooded severely, and cars were navigating this mess. Almost all but one lane was manageable to pass through under the bridge, and that rain and flooding is expected to continue to be an issue, especially as we continue to monitor heavy rain and storms that are moving through North Georgia, more to the south as well. We will also, for those of you who are watching this from South Georgia, the southern Georgia area, maybe Albany specifically, we are going to get you out to our sister station at WALB with a report on how conditions are over there. But again, taking you through these live pictures right here, back to this particular area, Marbut Road and Tafida Trail. Rebecca Schramm will be joining us here in the next 20 minutes with a look at how drivers are being impacted. Coming up throughout the stream here on Atlanta News First Plus, just to take you through what we will be covering here. Meteorologist Courtney Giacobazzi will be joining us with your full hour-by-hour weather report. The specific impacts that you are going to want to watch out for if you are somebody who is at work right now and planning their afternoon or evening commute. If you are someone who has errands to run today, I know it is the day after the Super Bowl. A lot of us are just getting our lives together a little bit, so we want to get you prepared for whatever the day might bring you. But the important thing I want to start with is why we do these first alerts. It is to make sure that you are weather ready as fast and as soon as possible so that you can plan ahead. And with that, I want to send it over to meteorologist, First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jen Valdez, with an explainer on what a First Alert weather day is.
Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez. We issue First Alert weather days here at Atlanta News First to give you an early warning that something is heading our way, whether it be fog, rain, or even severe weather. During the threat of severe weather, you may see a severe thunderstorm watch or a severe thunderstorm warning. It could also be a tornado watch versus a tornado warning. And I'm just going to talk briefly about the difference between the two and what they mean as far as you and your safety. A watch means that a severe thunderstorm or a tornado is possible. It means we are watching for the possibility of strong storms that could be severe. A watch is generally issued for a large portion of the viewing area and encompasses several counties. For example, it could be for all of far north Georgia or all of Metro Atlanta, and it is issued for several hours or for a large portion of the day. A watch means that severe storms are possible in the next few hours. So those watches are issued as those storms are rolling in, just ahead of that and during the event. They usually have, or they always have, an expiration time. Sometimes they'll expire or be canceled a little sooner than the end time. And that time gives you a good idea of when the severe storms could happen over your area. So usually we'll say there's a severe thunderstorm watch until 3 p.m. And generally that means the threat ends at 3 p.m. The National Weather Service really good about canceling these watches if necessary, or even removing counties from the watch that may no longer be under the threat of severe weather. And again, a watch can be for both severe thunderstorms and for tornadoes. Warning is a very different situation. A warning means that the severe thunderstorm is happening or the tornado is happening, dependent on if it's a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning. When you have a warning for your area, you need to take action immediately. It means that the storm is actively happening. A warning is issued for a particular county or a cluster of counties. Sometimes we can have a severe thunderstorm warning for a couple counties or a tornado warning for a couple counties, but a warning is not as large. It doesn't encompass as large of an area as a watch does. A warning means that the severe weather is actively happening, and if you are under a tornado warning, you need to go to the lowest level of your home. You need to go to an interior room like a closet, protect your head, and stay there until the warning is expired or canceled. You don't want to come out of your safe space until the coast is clear. And when that tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning expires or is canceled, you know the coast is clear. Make sure you stay with the Atlanta News First Alert weather team. We will let you know if any bad weather is in the forecast, and we will let you know if a watch or warning is issued. If there is a tornado warning issued, we will be on the air with you 24/7 to keep you safe until the threat passes.
And I do want to clarify that right now we are not in a tornado warning of any sort, but we are under a flood watch, and that is going to be important for you and all my drivers out there, especially taking a look at roadways just like this out in the Marbutte area, Marbutte Road and Tafita Trail area in Reedon, and other places like Piedmont Road, a very busy, a very populated area for you. But as you can see, those roads experiencing some significant flooding, a flood watch still underway. So for my drivers out there, if you do need to get on the roads, try to look ahead to what the traffic conditions for your commute are. But if you are finding yourself experiencing street flooding or having to drive through that, you could take some precautions. AAA recommending that you avoid cruise control as much as possible. Your chances of losing control of your vehicle are higher if you are in cruise control. You want to make sure that you have two hands on the wheel and you are manually operating the vehicle. So you want to slow down. This one, a little bit obvious, but slow down and make sure that you leave plenty of room between you and the other vehicle in front of you. The last thing you want to do is hydroplane. If you were with us during our morning show here on Atlanta News First Plus, you know that our reporter Don Shipman was talking about this. Hydroplaning, very common with flooding conditions just like this. We even saw that happening on the road at some point. Make sure that you are slowing down and leaving room for other drivers ahead of you or behind you, for that matter, making sure that everyone is doing their part to create space between each other. And then responding to a car skid. You want to avoid slamming on your brakes if you start skidding or hydroplaning in any way. That makes it harder for you to control your car, and once you lose control of your car, it is a lot more difficult to manage regaining that control. So AAA giving you some wet weather advice as we continue to see road conditions just like this. And there's a great example for you, a large vehicle slowing down, taking their time, assessing the road and how deep that flooding is. You could hydroplane with as much as 1.5 inch of water on the road. That doesn't take a lot to create a unsafe condition for you on the roadway. So again, this is the area of Marbutte Road and Tafita Trail. We'll have our Rebecca Schramm joining us live from this location right now, bringing you a picture, but live from this location with what she's seen throughout the morning and other tips for you that you could use as you plan your day. But the main takeaway I wanted to bring you is that there is a flood watch for nearly all of North Georgia in place right now. The risk for heavy rain is widespread, and we are also monitoring a threat for severe thunderstorms. That's just south of I-20. So meteorologist Courtney Jacobazi will be joining us here in a moment, but I want to show you the radar right now. As you can see, these conditions minute by minute, hour by hour, showing you just the movement of this severe weather system and how it is growing through this area. As you can see, this is not something you want to be caught outside in. Definitely make a plan. Don't forget that umbrella. If you can stay inside, that is going to be the best way to go about this. You don't want to get caught out in this storm system, whether you are in a vehicle or especially for my pedestrians out there. Definitely just be a little more cautious when you're stepping outside today. Again, meteorologist Courtney Giacobazzi will join us here momentarily, taking you hour by hour through these weather conditions. In the meantime, taking you back out to the roadways. This was from earlier this morning. As you can see, a heavy commute on the road. That has since eased up a little bit, but in the peak hour, we have traffic here in Atlanta, a lot of flood warnings that we saw. And at one point, along Marietta Road in northwest Atlanta, we even saw a car get stuck in a stream. Luckily, the driver of this vehicle, we were told by investigators, was alert, conscious, and breathing at the time they responded. But that vehicle, as you can see, ended up in the stream here. Our camera adjusting just a little for you. And experiencing significant damage. So for my drivers out there, I cannot emphasize enough, you just don't want to end up in this type of situation. And, thankfully, the driver, from what we've been told, is going to be okay, but don't want to experience this level of damage on your vehicle. With that, I do want to take you back out to our radar here, just taking a look at some of these conditions, as we continue to bring you your coverage here on Atlanta News First Plus. Bear with me. There we go. Got the radar back. But as you can see, taking you hour by hour, that storm system, now we're really in the thick of it as it passes through North Georgia. And to better explain that, because I am not a meteorologist, I want to bring it over to First Alert meteorologist Courtney Giacobazzi with a look at your forecast.
Thanks so much, Maria. All right, everyone. So we do continue our First Alert weather day for what is clearly a very wet day, causing some big issues on the roadways, flooding a huge concern, and clearly we've seen that flooding come to fruition already throughout the day. So you're seeing a radar loop of what to expect today, and I'm going to take you through everything hour by hour here to get you ready for what to expect as we make our way through the rest of our First Alert weather day here. Just a busy day weather-wise to kick off this week. Probably not the best. It's never really a good day to have a really busy weather day, but probably even worse after a Super Bowl Sunday when a lot of you are probably moving a little slower, right? And not always the nicest to wake up to flooded roadways when you're just trying to make it to work, probably a little extra tired this morning. But we're going to get you through it. So let's talk about what to expect. High impact on your day today, because not only are we dealing with morning rain, but of course flooding. That doesn't just go away when the rain stops, right? So we're going to deal with that issue of the ponding in the roadways throughout the day today. Also the potential for storms this afternoon. So what we're experiencing this morning is all along a warm front, and we'll go into this in a little more explanation throughout this stream here, but we're experiencing just showers right now. But as we go through the day and a warm front lifts north, that's going to help destabilize our atmosphere, give us some fuel for thunderstorms, and then a trailing cold front will move through. So that's the isolated severe threat there. We'll have some energy build, especially south of Atlanta. That cold front will come and kind of take advantage of all of that energy and offer us the chance for maybe an isolated severe storm. But then even beyond that, as we head past sunset, so the morning was the rain and flooding. Flooding concern still continues into the afternoon, but then we really focus on that isolated severe threat. And then in the evening hours, we go to the wind. The wind is really going to pick up in a big way tonight. More than likely, we'll have a wind advisory be issued right now, just because the National Weather Service is focusing on what's happening right now. There is no wind advisory, but I imagine as they start to kind of turn their attention to the next big thing, then we'll get that wind advisory issued. But wind gusts upwards of 40 miles per hour possible overnight, so that'll definitely wake you up in the evening. You'll probably hear that wind kind of rustling outside your window. Here's a look at First Alert radar. Right now, we have very heavy rain south of the city. That's where a lot of the heavy rain has set up for the morning. And I'm going to take this full for you so that you can get a better look at it. But In Metro, inside the perimeter, just some light showers, occasionally experiencing some steady rain down towards Eatonton, so Jasper and Putnam County, some more steady rain. But the flash flood warnings that we had out for Troup, Meriwether, into southern Henry County as well, that included Heard County, parts of Lamar and Upson County, those have expired. That doesn't mean that it is not raining and that flash flooding isn't still a concern, but that heavy period of rain that they were experiencing for several hours, in fact, over 4 inches of rain dropped in some spots down in Troup and Meriwether County. Heavy band of showers is now out of the way. Still some light rain, so flash flooding still a possibility, but we are still dealing with showers across most of Metro. And it even looks like the heavy rain over in parts of Clark and Oconee County that we were watching throughout the morning, that is also said and done. A lot of the steady and heavy rain now down in central Georgia, where we are starting to dry out slightly if you're north of the city. But that will change as we go through the afternoon. So let's take you through First Alert Futurecast here. Steady to heavy showers will be possible as we make our way through the afternoon. So here's a snapshot of 12:30 around your lunch hour. If you had plans to maybe go out and grab lunch today, just know that you're going to get wet. You're going to need to take your time on the roadways. And if you are ordering food, we all love a good DoorDash, okay? Just be very kind to your drivers, because they're going to be the ones driving in all of this for you. So maybe give them a little extra grace today, because we know they work extra hard on days like today. So as we make our way towards lunchtime, widely scattered showers, maybe a few rumbles of thunder at this point as well. I think we're going to have the most fuel for storms at this point. So notice how we kind of get a little bit of clearing around 2:30. That warm front is lifting north. Now we're waiting for our cold front to come through and kind of take advantage of the energy provided by our warm front through the afternoon. At this point, if we see any peak of sunshine, which is a possibility, I don't think a lot of us are going to see sun today, but even the slightest peak of sunshine, mainly south of the city, will really help fuel us up. Either way, as that warm front lifts north, just like behind a cold front, you have cold air. Behind a warm front, you have warm air. And warmth is a fuel source for storms. So we have the moisture in place, hence all the rain that's falling right now. That means we have moisture in the air. And then we're going to get that warmth, the heat, behind the warm front, which is going to serve as just an extra layer of fuel for these storms to take advantage of as that cold front moves in and kind of lifts it all up. So at 2:30, we get a little bit of a break. At this point, our atmosphere is starting to prime up for thunderstorm activity. And I think we're mainly going to be looking south of the city for the best chance for maybe an isolated severe threat. Our severe threat is still very limited. It's just not none. So for the most part, if you experience thunderstorm activity, you're going to, see the lightning, you're going to hear the thunder, the heavy rain will come down, maybe even some small hail, the wind will probably pick up. But in order for a storm to become severe, it's going to need to have 58-mile-per-hour wind gusts or greater, 1-inch diameter hail, and then of course a tornado also warrants a severe storm. At that point, of course, if there is a tornado spotted, either radar indicated or someone sees it, that is a tornado warning, but still that falls under the category, under the umbrella of a severe storm. As we head towards 4 o'clock, a lot of you will be headed home from work at this point. It looks like, again, south of the city, you see those little kind of red splotches within that batch of rain south of the city. We'll be watching for those little kind of individual cells to maybe warrant a severe thunderstorm warning, maybe take advantage of some of that wind shear and fuel that could briefly spawn a tornado. We're not looking at any kind of long track tornado situation. If we even get a tornado warning, it would be a very brief tornado warning. But still, the threat is there. It's not none. It's just very low for us. Our greatest threat is going to be the flooding threat and then also the damaging wind threat as that front moves in. And again, maybe some small hail. That's also possible. We actually did get a report of hail earlier this morning. I believe it was in Coweta County. We had a threat of, or at least a report of some small hail. Never got full confirmation on that, but we have a weather service chat where us as meteorologists can kind of chat with people at the National Weather Service, emergency management directors, and there was a report of some hail. I believe it was in Coweta County, but nonetheless, we'll be watching for that this afternoon. So around 4 o'clock, mainly south of the city, that cluster of showers and storms moves through East Georgia from Athens down to Eatonton, including places like Gainesville, so up in Hall County, as we make our way between 4 and 5:30. And then at this point, as we make our way closer to 6, 7, that severe threat subsides. We'll be done with the threat for severe weather. Our cold front is moving out, and we'll have some wraparound moisture to keep us at least under the threat for a few showers late in the evening and into the overnight hours. But at this point, the rain is pretty much done, and then we're going to focus more so on the wind and the colder air that is going to start to usher on in. Today, going to be very mild in the upper 50s to low 60s. If you're south of the city, again, that's where our severe threat is greater because that warm front's going to lift north and you're going to really pump in all that moisture. We're going to have a southerly wind that's going to help pull in the warmer, more moisture-rich air that's giving you a slightly higher severe threat. You're also going to be a little warmer today. So Atlanta, we have a high of 62 today. If you're south of the city, you could end up closer to 70 degrees, especially in places like Eatonton. In far south Georgia, just to put in perspective, where the severe threat's even a little bit greater, they could be near 80 degrees today. Places like Brunswick, Georgia could be closer to 80 degrees this afternoon. Really, really crazy. So kind of dependent on where you are, will depend on how warm you will be. The further south you go, the warmer you are, and also the slightly greater chance for maybe that isolated severe storm for you. So coming up in just a few minutes, we are going to kind of give you another rundown of what to expect today. We'll go through just a brief timeline. Again, the rain this morning causing the issues and the concern for flash flooding, which we've already seen in a handful of spots. We'll get a little bit of a break early this afternoon before our trailing cold front moves in, and that will bring us the chance for kind of late afternoon, early evening thunderstorms, maybe with an isolated severe storm. I think we'll mainly be looking after 2 o'clock and then to about 6, 7 o'clock for that chance for an isolated severe storm. Again, isolated the key word. And we're going to break down the threats, kind of threat by threat. We're going to talk about the damaging wind threat, the tornado threat. We'll go through all of that coming up here in just a few minutes. We'll also take a look at what to expect as we go through the rest of the week, including your Valentine's Day forecast. That'll be coming up here shortly. But I'm going to hand it back over to Maria. She is going to move along and continue on with our continuing coverage here on our First Alert Weather Day.
All right, thank you so much, Courtney. And guys, again, if you are just joining us here, we are taking you through all of the impacts, all of the weather that we have been forecasting since we alerted you of this First Alert Weather Day, and kind of seeing it play out, taking you through live visuals. Here in a moment, we will actually have reporter Rebecca Schramm joining us live from the scene. I'm going to pull up a live picture for you here, if my computer can cooperate with me. There we go. As you can see, some heavy flooding on the roadway along Marbutte Road and Tafita Trail. This is in the Reedon area. Again, Rebecca Schramm here, jumping on a line with us to join us here with a live report for you. But before we jump into talking with Rebecca and catching up, I did just want to emphasize the importance of being weather ready for moments like this. And for that, the best way to be weather ready is to have the technology and the tools available to you so that you can be prepared. And no better tool is out there than the First Alert Weather app. It is customized by the largest team of meteorologists here in the Southeast, none other than our Atlanta News First weather team right here, including Courtney Jacobazzi, Ella Dorsey, Rodney Harris, all of the wonderful people that get you weather ready every morning and throughout the day. With that, I want to take it to Chief Meteorologist Jen Valdez with a look at how you can download and then use the app for your specific area.
Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez. The First Alert Weather Team is working around the clock to keep you and your loved ones safe. And while we are on the air with you for much of the day on Atlanta News First and also on ANF Plus and on streaming devices, we also have a First Alert Weather app, and that's the best way to keep the Southeast's largest team of meteorologists in your pocket 24 hours a day. If you do not have that First Alert Weather app, it is a free download. And as you're watching our weather forecast on Atlanta News First, you notice we have this QR code in the corner of our screen. You can take a picture as if you're going to take a picture, put the camera on that, and it will allow you to download that app for free. The app is great because not only can you see the radar in real time, but also the app knows where you're located. So it's going to give you that forecast for where you are. So if you're in Peachtree City, if you are in Sugar Hill, if you are in Peachtree Corners, Alpharetta, Roswell, doesn't matter where you are, the app knows where you're located and it will give you the forecast for your area. Tells you the temperature, the cloud cover, the rain chances, and it will do that hour by hour throughout the day. On top of that, you'll find the 7-day forecast, the 10-day forecast. So when you watch our weather forecast on TV, we'll give you that 7-day forecast for Atlanta's most accurate forecast. On the First Alert Weather app, you can get the 10-day forecast. So you'll be in the know before everyone else who's just watching on TV. Another very cool feature on the app, besides the 10-day forecast, the hour hour-by-hour forecast for where you're located is you can actually go under settings on the app and you can toggle lightning alerts on. That way, your phone, again, knows where you're located. You toggle the lightning button, make sure it's on green, and your phone will alert you if lightning is approaching. This is my favorite feature, especially in the summer months. Both of my kids are swimmers, so we are always in and around the pool or the lake or somewhere near water. So those lightning alerts are extremely helpful. You can also see the radar as well, and you can see the storms that are approaching your area. We do send updates throughout the day on the First Alert Weather app as well. So if there is a brand new First Alert Weather Day issued, you will be the first to know if you have the First Alert Weather app.
That was our chief meteorologist, Jen Valdez, taking you a little bit through the First Alert Weather app, a fantastic tool. I have it on my phone. It alerts you on weather impacts in your specific area way ahead of when they happen so that you can properly prepare. And I think that is so important, especially when we have severe weather like this. Taking you back out to some of these live pictures here. As you can see, this is from our reporter, Rebecca Schramm, showing you some of the flooding that is taking place in the area of, again, if you were with us earlier, I kind of showed you this previously, Marbute Road and Tafita Trail in the Reedon community area. These vehicles really moving slowly, taking their time to try to get you that live visual. And I do believe we are having a little bit of trouble connecting with Rebecca at this time, but I wanted to show you some of that visual. I think we have Rebecca back. Let's get you out to reporter Rebecca Schramm here. As we had some tech issues earlier, I think we got her back just now. Rebecca, if you can hear me, we are taking you, our viewers here, live to some of the more severe weather impacts that we're seeing on the roadways.
Apologize, I had to look because it looked like something was significantly wrong with his or her car after the fact. It's hard to tell, but they seem like they're having car trouble there. I'm going to turn this down so I don't hear the feedback. But yeah, this is the problem spot here. We're in the Redan area of DeKalb County. So this is, to give you an idea, this is between Decatur and Lithonia, if you're familiar with DeKalb County. Here comes a car on Tafita Trail turning onto Marbute Road, and I have a feeling a lot of the folks who live here are used to flooding here. They don't seem too hesitant to go right through this puddle despite how deep it looks. And you know, I know with just looking at the size of the car, I'm not sure a small car like that that I would have tried it, but that's just me. You know, we're always reporting on the worst that can happen when cars drive through puddles like this. So that's just me. But we've seen a number of large pickup trucks go through here. I mean, at full speed, some of them, like it's nothing. And yeah, here comes a car now. Let's just kind of take a look as this car goes through slowly. Looks like they're going to give it a shot. The last thing you want to do is just stop when you get into the middle of an intersection. Looks like this car is turning, so we'll see how the car does. Car seems to be doing fine. Let's just hope they don't have car trouble later. And that's what we worry about really is, you know, I mean, you know your own car. Maybe you know it pretty well, maybe you don't. But that's a chance you take when you've got a situation like this, when you've got a puddle, you don't know how deep it is. You can't see the bottom. You don't know if the pavement's washed out. You know, you just have to take a guess. And here comes a car now turning onto Tafita. So we'll give it a look, see how this car does. This is a taller profile vehicle, so, and plus they didn't go all the way through the deepest part of the puddle, but here comes a van, seems to have no trouble. We were talking with a homeowner over here, and this is off Panola Road, sort of a residential area off Panola Road. We're talking with a man who's lived here a couple years, and he says it floods like this pretty often. There's a stream that runs pretty close by, and just off on the other side of the roadway there is where the water runs off, and sometimes it runs off quickly and sometimes it does not. A lot of times they have trash buildup. You can see a lot of leaves over there. And I was also talking with a tow truck driver who happened to come by here in his personal car, and he was telling me that he has seen a number of times when he's had to pull people out because they got stuck over here. He had one vehicle that went over the side, and he had to pull that vehicle from down below. So this is a problem spot. We know that. We also know that you just got to be careful with situations like this. I've seen several drivers turn around, which I think is a smart thing to do. There are other ways out of this neighborhood. You don't have to go through here. If you're on your way to work, just take a couple of extra minutes, you know. You would much rather be a little bit late than have some serious car trouble later because you drove through a puddle and shouldn't have. So Maria, I'll send it back to you. We'll keep an eye on things out here and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we're reporting live in DeKalb County. I'll send it back to you, Maria.
All right, Rebecca, thank you. I really appreciate the up-close look. We're going to continue to monitor that area. We know you'll stay on top of it, too. Taking you through some other areas that experience some of this severe flooding. This is Piedmont Road, as you can see here. Again, our Atlanta News First team out in the community for you, tracking different areas that are experiencing some of these flood impacts. While we tell you that we are still under a flood watch for most of North Georgia, that is expected to stay in place until these weather conditions and this weather system eases up. I'm going to try to see if I can get you back to that radar. That radar is very helpful for just showing you from afar what that looks like and how the system is moving, so you really can get a better understanding of it. There you go. There's that radar. As you can see, it's moving really through Atlanta, headed more east. And as you can see earlier this morning during the morning commute, it was something that affected a lot of drivers, a lot of you trying to drop off your kiddos at school, maybe getting to work. Hopefully you were safe on the roads and you moved with caution. Again, the AAA recommending with flooding like this that you leave extra space and room for other drivers on the road. And like Rebecca just said, if you see flooding and you're unsure of how deep that water goes, better to turn around, seek some alternate routes. And with that, I do want to bring in meteorologist Rodney Harris with a look at some of the traffic conditions that you can expect and your ongoing weather forecast. As you can see right here, Chamblee Tucker Road. We're starting there.
All right, Maria. So this has been the story all morning long, as you can see there on that screen. This is 285 at Chamblee Tucker, so we're going northbound, Maria, toward I-85. And as you can see, some pretty big delays here. This has been the story all morning long. All we're doing is just switching from one part of Metro Atlanta to another. So if you do have to get out there this morning or this afternoon, this image that you see on the right-hand side of your screen, that is your reminder to try to take it easy if you can. If you can, just stay at home. I know a lot of you have to get to work or have to get out today, so if you do, just make sure and use some caution. I want to take you to the First Alert traffic map. What we've done today is we've turned on First Alert radar on top of the traffic map so you can see where the heaviest rain is in relation to where you are driving. And that area that we're watching right now that you can see Embry Hills, I should say, approaching Spaghetti Junction, that red, that is where you're seeing those delays. There's also light rain in that area, so just a heads up in the Spaghetti Junction area. I want to zoom out and show you the rest of Metro Atlanta because that's not the only slowdown that we're seeing. There's also slowdowns on I-75 south in Cobb County impacting those of you, it's actually north, not south, impacting those of you in Marietta. As you go northbound approaching 575, there's a delay there, so a heads up to you. Again, I-75 north, that is leaving Marietta headed toward Kennesaw this morning. You have delays on the north end of town. I'll point out, Maria, if you go north of Metro Atlanta, it's actually dry right now, and like North Cherokee County and Bartow County and Floyd County, that won't last all day. We will see that rain fill back in this afternoon in a more scattered variety, so we're not done with the rain yet. In fact, here's a look at your forecast as far as driving today. The bad travel that we saw for your morning commute, unfortunately, that's going to continue in Metro Atlanta through the morning and going into the afternoon. There will be scattered rain out there, so again, make sure and give yourself some extra time if you do have to get on the roads. Now, this evening, things will change a little bit. We're forecasting this rain to gradually decrease in coverage this evening and eventually move out after 7 p.m. So if you have dinner plans tonight, you'll be okay to drive. It won't be as bad as what we saw earlier this morning. Now, we will still see a few showers out there this evening and even a few storms, but you'll be in much better shape to drive after sunset tonight versus what we're seeing this morning and this afternoon. So there's a little peek at your driving forecast today. I want to get you back to DeKalb County here because, again, that's the biggest alert that I'm seeing right now. It's the first alert for traffic because delays on 285 North at Chamblee-Tucker Road. So if you're in Clarkston and you typically travel toward Tucker or toward Chamblee, you will be delayed this morning approaching Spaghetti Junction. Anytime you see red that pops up like that, it means that you're not able to go the speed limit. So a heads up to you on the east side of town. As we zoom back out and take a look at the rest of the region, also seeing a delay on I-20 eastbound right before you hit the connector. So a heads up for you in Atlanta. I'm actually sort of surprised. We're not seeing nearly as many crashes right now as we saw just 30 minutes ago, an hour ago. So that's certainly good news, but there's been a lot of spin outs, a lot of single vehicle crashes. So that's why we want you to still be careful with this rain continuing through the rest of the morning. In the afternoon, also as First Alert meteorologist Courtney Jacobazi has been reporting, there are a lot of flood reports out there, especially on smaller streets. So if your street is a street that's typically flood prone, you have that going on for you this morning and this afternoon. So watch out for that. We'll continue to keep you up to date on any new incidents that may pop up in the meantime. I'll send it back over to Maria to walk you through the rest of this really busy day, really active day, Maria, across the region.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rodney. And again, a fantastic tool to have for you, the First Alert Weather app, to keep up with any weather conditions in your specific area. Some other resources I'm just going to walk you through while we are here. I wanted to check in on the conditions for my flyers out there. If you are headed to the world's busiest airport, you're going to want to keep an eye on the weather conditions because at any moment, that could impact your flight. So this is flightaware.com. It is an accessible website. You can also use it. I actually recommend using it, that you could track your specific flights and get a better understanding of how they are being impacted. So as you can see, arrivals, departures, and whether they are delayed, that is all laid out for you here. The cancellations, the scheduled flights that have been changed due to weather, not too bad. That is the good news in all of this. Not too heavy of impacts as we normally see with severe weather systems similar to these. For the most part, Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport is operating as usual. You do have some impacts, but with this severe weather system moving a little out of the way from the airport area, flights are expected to ease up. And then another thing you can also monitor for those of you who are staying home, who have plans indoors today, is your power outage map, especially if you are experiencing power that is going in and out. A few of you had trees down that you shared with us and similar impacts that affected the power to your home. As you can see right here, again, not too bad, but in the areas where most of the system becomes that yellow and orange zone and the red zone, that is where we see corresponding power outages, especially around the Metro Atlanta. As you can see, the red spots, just like this one, as you can see in the Tucker, Lawrenceville, Grayson area, just north of Snellville. This is where you have a large amount of customers, about 3,400 customers experiencing power outages that Georgia Power is now responding to, and that estimated restoration time for you folks out there is 11:30 a.m. And then again, checking your roads, keeping up to date with news that we bring you on your road weather conditions, just like meteorologist Rodney Harris just took you out to, but also the Georgia Department of Transportation and 511 putting out all of this useful information for you before you get on your designated route or wherever you may be headed. You just want to make sure you're checking those road conditions. Of course, expect that not all flooding is going to be up to date and reported for you ahead of your commute, so do watch out for that on the road. This is the day to have two hands on the wheels. Again, if you are somebody who is experiencing any of these outages, any of these maybe trees that have fallen in your neighborhood, or maybe you are a traveler who is now now sitting at the airport with an impacted flight, do let us know. You can text us here at Atlanta News First. You can hit us up on social media, email us. We would love to hear from you, and our team will get back to you, and we'll hopefully share some of your images and videos and thoughts here on Atlanta News First Plus and on Atlanta News First during our newscast hours. Again, when you do experience some of this street flooding, just like we took you out to some images here earlier that Rebecca Schramm sent back to us here at Atlanta News First. This is, again, Marbute Road and Tafida Trail in the Reedon area. This is some of the impacts that these vehicles had to deal with, is traversing through this water, not really understanding how deep it is, but proceeding with caution and just trying to make it through without any damage to their vehicles and without any damage to themselves, for that matter. For the most part, drivers are proceeding slowly and making it through all right, but an important reminder that when you do find yourself faced with street flooding and ponding, for that matter, the AAA does recommend taking some steps, and I want to walk you through some of those steps. The first one being avoid cruise control at all. This is not the day that you want to use cruise control unless you know the road is dry. Your chances of losing control of your vehicle are significantly up if you put it in cruise control. The main thing that you want to do is keep control of your vehicle, especially when you're crossing through flooding like this. Slow down and leave room for other vehicles. You do not want to end up in an accident with the rain coming down on you and water damage in your vehicle. Not fun for everyone, and definitely a safety risk. And then when you're responding to the moment that your car starts skidding or you're hydroplaning or anything of that nature, you want to avoid slamming on the brakes, because that makes it a lot harder for you to then regain control of your vehicle and make it through safely. So we're going to continue to keep you updated. In the meantime, I do want to take you through some of the other weather systems that we're seeing, not just here in North Georgia, but for some of you on our Atlanta News First Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV. I know you guys are watching from all across Georgia. And with that, I want to get you out to our sister station out in Albany with meteorologist Tommy Owens, taking a look at how some of the conditions are down there. Tommy, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. I do think you have some playback from my voice coming out on your end.
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can fix that. I'm going to see if I can turn it down.
We'll troubleshoot that a little bit.
Did that help Did that help any bit at all?
I think we're in good shape. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I just want to check in for my South Georgia, Albany residents out there. They're watching this. They're trying to plan around their day. How is it going down in your area?
Well, what we've noticed so far today is a lot of heavy rainfall that is ongoing across southwest Georgia. These storms look like they ran into some other storms that were moving in from the south a little bit earlier. And now what we're dealing with here in Albany is just a lot of heavy rainfall that's leading to some flash flooding, not only here in the city of Albany, but across a lot of our northern communities, which includes areas like Americus, Leesburg, getting into portions of Dawson as well at this time. Now, some of our southern communities, including like Colquitt County, we're also seeing areas stretching from Thomas County over into areas of Decatur County are currently under a tornado watch for the potential for tornadoes to occur in that region. Now, when it comes to our northern communities, just because we've seen all the rainfall, it has led to a kind of more stable atmosphere for those areas. But down in our southern areas where we really have not seen a whole lot of rainfall just yet, it looks like they still have an opportunity for some tornadoes to even pop up in there, along with those damaging winds as these storms start to approach a little bit further south. But right now, just a lot of heavy rainfall. I know I was just driving about 10 minutes ago and couldn't see anything. That's just how heavy the rainfall is coming down at this time, and the roadways completely just almost flooded in a number of areas here across South Georgia.
For our North Georgia commuters, a lot of them experienced really the weight of heavy downpours and severe weather here earlier this morning. That now starting to ease up. However, the road conditions still wet, still flooding, still quite dangerous. For you folks, I know a lot of that is headed y'all's way, or you're starting to get in the thick of it. For your viewers out there, how should they prepare to go about today? If they are planning to hit the road or stay indoors, what kind of impacts are we expecting?
Well, it looks like everybody here in the South Georgia region just needs to if they can, hunker down at home, especially in an environment like this, with there being an opportunity for those tornadoes. And I've already experienced some of the high winds, just like looking outside and being out there. Those winds are powerful, and even felt it move my car when I was driving down the roadways, even just 3 minutes down the road, because that's only as far as I live. And so the winds are pretty powerful out there and can lead to some commuter headaches or issues for those driving here in South Georgia. So my advice to our residents are, if you can, stay at home as much as you can. Don't try to venture outside if you don't have to. If you're at work, hopefully you brought some lunch today, because it doesn't look like you want to try to go out during those lunchtime hours, because we'll still be seeing these storms even by lunch and even probably by the commute tonight. If some people are picking up their kids, they might have to experience a little bit of this, especially in our southeastern areas like in Valdosta and in Homerville. So you definitely want to be mindful of that throughout the day.
Tommy, I know a lot of people determine whether they need to take the weather super seriously by whether their local meteorologist rolls up their sleeves. Anything that we can expect as you continue to monitor these weather conditions and give your reports throughout today?
Well, I know one of my just telltale signs is I like to stay as calm as possible, but I feel like if I need to take off my coat because we're like in wall-to-wall coverage for hours, that's probably one of the things that I'm probably going to have to start doing, because it is fairly warm out here right now, and it is fairly warm in the studio. So that's definitely, if we're going and we're keeping you up to date on everything that's going on, we'll definitely be showing you some of those signs here, even at WALB.
I can't thank you enough for offering perspective. Hopefully your residents, your viewers are going to stay dry, stay safe today, and we appreciate everything that you do to keep us weather ready.
Well, we appreciate you as well. I hope everybody in Atlanta stays safe and across the state of Georgia, and I'm glad that we had a moment to speak with you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tommy. All right, guys, we're going to continue to follow with some of these weather impacts that we're seeing here throughout North Georgia. As you can see, WALB also getting y'all ready if you're in Albany, if you're more south. Meteorologists across the Georgia right now today in this weather system working together. Our sister station at WALB working with us to keep you informed. So we are going to continue to bring you everything and everything that we learn here, especially monitoring some of this flooding, keeping you updated on that flood watch, and getting you prepared for whatever today might bring you, whether you're needing to step outside or hopefully staying indoors. We're going to continue to track your flights, your power outages, your road conditions. With that, I do want to send it back out to meteorologist Courtney Giacobazzi with a look at some of the weather conditions and as we are standing in them today, as well as what's still up ahead for North Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks so much, Maria. Really, really cool to get perspective from some of our sister stations. That's one of the great things about having stations kind of parked across Georgia, because we know you and your family, you might live here, but some of your family and friends might be in other parts of the state. So it's always nice to stay in tune and just get a little bit of perspective that weather is everywhere. And it impacts not only us here in North Georgia, but impacts some of our neighbors to the south and to the east. And sometimes the threats are a little bit different. And here at home in North Georgia, thankfully, our severe threat, not quite as great as it is south of us. And while the threat fairly isolated as a whole across the state of Georgia today, we definitely aren't going to get quite the brunt of the severe weather impacts today. So what we're going to do is kind of just give you a general overview of what to expect hour by hour today. And as promised a little earlier, we're going to take you through what to expect severe weather-wise today. Obviously, this morning, very wet. Flooding has been a huge concern. We've seen multiple reports of flooding. And in fact, I was just in the National Weather Service chat where we talk with members at the National Weather Service in Peachtree City, their meteorologists, also the emergency management directors across the area. And we haven't gotten too many more flooding reports on some of our back streets, but we've gotten some flooding reports when it comes to our rivers and creeks, which is obviously why that flood watch is in effect. So we'll go over that a little bit more later. And also coming up in Atlanta News First at noon, I'm going to go over some of those flooded roads and talk about some of the flood warnings in effect for some of our rivers and creeks and where we're just seeing the greatest impact from the morning rain. So let's take you through that timeline over my shoulder here, and I'm going to bring it full just so it's a little easier for you to see. Most of the rain going to fall between now and about 1 o'clock, and then as we make our way past lunchtime, so as you're picking up the kids from school today, maybe trying to get some errands done, The 1 to like 3 o'clock time frame will probably be the best for you to do that. Notice that coverage of rain goes down to about 40% between 1 and 2 o'clock and then ramps back up really after 3. So once we get to 3:30, 4 o'clock, that's when we'll really be watching for the potential for maybe an isolated severe storm. And then that coverage of rain will again taper after sunset. So we had our prime time during your morning commute. We're still quite rainy out there right now. That coverage will taper after lunchtime. So not that we're really going to have a lot of dry time today, but our driest time of the day is going to be between around 1 and 3 o'clock. And then after 3 o'clock and beyond, we'll ramp up our coverage of rain and thunderstorms. Notice you can see the little lightning icons there in the afternoon. That's when we'll have quite a bit of fuel for storms, temperatures in the 60s. So while that's not necessarily warm when it comes to our summer and springtime standards, that's definitely warm for this time of the year standard, and that will provide some fuel for severe storms. And then if you have any dinner plans tonight around 7, 8 o'clock, just know that that coverage of rain will taper, but still going to be pretty damp out there throughout the rest of the evening. And so because of the rain and storms today, we do have our first alert weather day. That's why we have been giving you extended coverage throughout the morning just to get you ready for what to expect through the day. And I want to get you ready for the potential for severe weather. So today, what's ultimately happening right now is we have this weather system, a low pressure system that's moving into the southeast, and a trailing cold front is currently off the coast of Florida, so just off to the west of the panhandle of Florida, kind of hanging out along the Alabama and Mississippi line there. All of our rain for the morning has been along a warm front, and as warm fronts lift, you'll usually get kind of that misty feel, you'll get those low hanging clouds, you'll get just that steady rain, occasional rumbles of thunder, but you normally won't get anything severe, as the thunderstorms in these situations are usually elevated. So the fuel for them isn't found at the surface, it's found higher up in the atmosphere. So usually with those kinds of thunderstorms, we call them elevated thunderstorms, you're not going to get anything severe. So that's what we were experiencing along our warm front. So as that warm front continues to lift, what that's going to do is provide energy for storms. And south of here, that severe threat's greater, and you'll see that as I kind of explain more and go in depth on some of these severe threats for the day. South of here, places like Brunswick, Savannah, they could push 80 degrees today. So clearly that's really warm. That's springtime warm. And so they're going to have a lot of fuel for storms. But also, on the second hand, we're going to have wind coming out of the south behind our warm front, but then it'll start to change direction along that cold front, and closer to an area of low pressure, you're naturally going to get a little bit of that changing of wind direction and speed with height, which is known as wind shear, which promotes that tornado threat, which is fairly low across the state today. The closer you get to the panhandle of Florida, so if you have family or friends that live in Panama City, Destin, over into Tallahassee, their threat for tornadoes is a little bit greater than us here in North Georgia. In fact, our tornado threat extremely low. I think we'll be looking mainly south of here, Troup and Meriwether County. Our greatest threat today, by and large, is going to be flooding, but also maybe some small hail. That's possible, and we'll watch for that brief isolated tornado. But again, I think that threat will mainly be South Georgia and into the Florida Panhandle. Either way, let's take you through the setup. We'll continue kind of explaining why this is all happening. We'll have our warm front lift north. That's going to promote energy for storms. So that's going to be lifting north through the early afternoon. That's why our temperatures today will be fairly warm. We'll be in the low to mid 60s. And then what that front is going to do is move through behind that front and ultimately lift everything up. So you'll have all the energy, you'll have all the moisture, you'll have the heat with temperatures in the 60s, south of places like Albany, over into the Florida Panhandle, closer to 80 degrees. That cold front is going to come, and that colder, more dense air is going to sink underneath all that warm and moist air and lift everything up in an explosive way and allow for those thunderstorms, including the potential for severe storms. So here's a look at the severe threat. Notice that level 1 of 5 threat. That's the green color there. That encompasses most of North Georgia. However, you go south of I-20, that's where the greater threat for severe weather lies, that level 2 of 5 threat. That means that isolated severe storms are more likely. We're talking maybe just possible for most of the area, but isolated severe storms, just a greater threat for that south of the city where you see that yellow color there. And the risks we'll be looking for, all modes of severe weather are possible, but we'll mainly be looking for that heavy rain and the damaging wind. So in these thunderstorms that form this afternoon, you'll more than likely get some of that gusty wind, maybe some small hail. We have gotten reports of that already this morning. And then an isolated tornado also possible. I think that threat is mainly from LaGrange down to Griffin into Eatonton, and even more so as you go into central Georgia, point south. That's where the greater tornado threat's going to lie, is they're simply just going to have more fuel, they're going to have a little more moisture, and then you have that wind shear factor in place. That's really across the state. But either way, the threats for severe weather, all there. but very isolated at best for most of the area. We'll mainly be looking south of the city from LaGrange to Griffin to Eatonton. Anywhere south of I-20 is going to be the hot spot this afternoon for the potential for severe storms. But nonetheless, nobody is immune to it today, but our focal point will mainly be areas south of I-20. When it comes to that tornado risk, you can see that here. If you live in Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, just because you're not highlighted in a threat doesn't mean that we're not going to still be looking out for you, but you can kind of see where that tornado threat is greater south of I-20. And the latest update from the Storm Prediction Center that came out just a couple of hours ago did nudge that 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of a point. So it's kind of just giving you a broad view. It doesn't mean that if you live in Griffin, just because you're not in that 5% risk doesn't mean that, you're totally immune. This is kind of just a blueprint for where they think that the atmosphere is going to be primed for severe storms, including the potential for, of course, a tornado. That's mainly in central Georgia. So our threat is extremely low. In fact, the lowest it can be. So brief isolated tornado possible, definitely not in any means looking at long track tornadoes with this event today. And that threat extremely low, but the greatest threat going to be well south of the city. Anywhere along and south of I-20 is where we'll kind of be focusing today for the best chance for severe weather, with, again, that damaging wind risk being the greatest. Notice all of North Georgia at least in a 5% risk for winds upwards of 55 to 58 miles per hour within 25 miles of a point. So again, but still notice the yellow color, that 15% risk south of I-20. So kind of reiterating here that south of I-20 is going to be the focal point for any kind of severe weather threat, still isolated, but focus is definitely going to be south of the city for the day today. Now, as we head into the evening tonight, we'll get rid of the rain. Remember, I said if you have any dinner plans tonight, 7, 8 o'clock, things are going to start drying out for you. Still going to be damp out there, and of course, water doesn't just evaporate magically, right? So if we have flooding in the roadways, if some of the creeks and streams and rivers are flooding over, those flood warnings actually extend into tomorrow. So just be mindful if some of the creeks are kind of overriding their banks, that could obviously flood out into the roadways. So just drive carefully as you're heading out and about. Even after the rain stops, it doesn't mean the water is going to stop being in the roadways. Now, the wind is going to pick up this evening. So we're going to go from the flooding threat this morning and, of course, into the afternoon. Definitely any extra rain that falls is not going to have a lot of room to go into the ground, so it'll stay on the top of the roads. But we're going to go from our widespread rain and flooding risk to the morning to our severe risk for the afternoon, mainly after 3 o'clock, an isolated severe storm possible. Flooding still a possibility as well. And then we shift our attention after sunset to the wind. We'll start to dry out, but then the wind is really going to pick up in a big way. Overnight low temperature. So as you step out the door tomorrow morning, really temperatures near 40, but through the late evening tonight, temperatures generally in the low 50s. But going to be very windy. We're going to have, that probably was not the best switch. There we go. We'll keep it in this view. Wind gusts upwards of 40 miles per hour will be possible overnight. So you're definitely going to hear that outside your window. First Alert meteorologist Ella Dorsey was talking about this morning on Atlanta News First throughout the morning show that it's probably not a bad idea if you have any of that like flimsier lawn furniture to maybe bring that inside. I know I have a few Adirondack chairs outside that aren't necessarily the most high end, so those sometimes can get caught up when it gets really windy outside. If it's trash day for you tomorrow, that would be me. Unless your trash can's really full and you think it's weighed down enough, just keep in mind that those could be toppled over a little bit tomorrow morning because it is going to get quite windy through the evening tonight. Now, tomorrow will actually be a really nice day. Mostly sunny, windy, chilly. It's going to be cold because 50s with the wind, it's going to feel colder than that, but at least we'll see a lot of sunshine tomorrow afternoon. So compared to today, I think tomorrow will actually end up quite nice. And as we go through the rest of the week, the forecast looks pretty good as well. In fact, we're going to be in the 60s and dry through most of your work week, which will be great. Here's a look at some of the wind gusts. So here's what overnight, while a lot of you are sleeping, unless you work some of the specialty jobs, like if you're a nurse or if you're an emergency responder and you work crazy hours like we do, you might walk out to this tomorrow morning, depending on what shift you work, of course. But for most of us, we'll be sleeping at this point, and you might get woken up hearing some of the wind kind of whistling outside your window. I know personally, my house, there's a tree outside one of my windows that always bangs on my window. So that's going to be an issue. But look at the wind gusts. We're talking over tropical storm force. Tropical storm force winds 39 miles per hour or greater. We're talking greater than that through the overnight hours with wind gusts upwards of maybe 45 miles per hour in the city of Atlanta. General wind gusts anywhere between 30 to 40 through the overnight hours. And then as we make our way into tomorrow morning, we're still looking at gusts 25 to 35, maybe isolated 40. So just a heads up as you're headed out the door tomorrow morning for work and school, especially bus drivers. Those are higher profile vehicles. They're a little bit longer, a little tougher to navigate when it's windy out there. No matter what kind of vehicle you drive, it's a both hands on the steering wheel kind of morning tomorrow because the wind is just going to be whipping tomorrow morning. So, you get on the interstate, you start zipping down 75, 85, whatever interstate you drive. One good gust of wind can kind of shake you up a little bit. So just something to be mindful of as you head out the door tomorrow morning. Now, tomorrow afternoon, here's Tuesday at 3 o'clock, still breezy. And again, cool, temperatures in the low to mid 50s. We're talking gusts anywhere between 25 to 30 miles per hour. So wouldn't be surprised if we have a wind advisory issued for us tomorrow, for tomorrow rather. Weather Service, I think, is just more so focusing on the immediate concern of the flooding right now and trying to keep up with that. And then they'll kind of shift their attention to the wind advisory. So be sure to stay tuned here on Atlanta News First throughout the day as we will update you if we do get any new alerts, including a wind advisory, which I think more likely than not will get issued for the area. So expect the wind to stay quite breezy as we go through the day tomorrow. Now, and starting tonight, really. We'll take you through the timeline for today. Again, we'll talk about how much rain we could pick up, additional rainfall, and we'll kind of just take you through a general overview of the day coming up here in just a few minutes. But we do also need to continue our coverage. We have been out and about in the streets of North Georgia, giving you updates on flooded roadways, trees, and power lines down. Here on Atlanta News First Plus, we're dedicated to give you all the information you need as this busy weather day continues. And now I'm going to bring in Atlanta News First anchor Brooks Baptiste with more to continue our coverage on our First Alert Weather Day. Brooks.
Hey, thank you so much, Courtney. Always doing some great work there, keeping us posted about the weather because we know that, again, today is just one of those days where you have got to know what's going on. You have to be weather aware because there's so many changes as well. So we appreciate you being here with us as we continue that continued coverage and that extended coverage of giving you an idea of what you can expect in case you have to be out and about today. When is it going to be out of our way? What's coming along with it? All of those things and so much more. But for now, Brooks Baptiste here checking in from the First Alert desk, getting a couple of things situated because we do have some other stories that we're watching on a day like today. And I think, when we talk about it being a First Alert weather day, obviously the majority of our shows are dedicated to the weather and weather where you are and weather what's happening in your neighborhood and all of that stuff. But there are some other stories that we're watching this hour, one of which being out of East Point right now where students and staff had to go back to class. And unfortunately, they were going back without one of their classmates who ended up dying on this past weekend after getting into some form of an altercation and being shot on Friday night. That happened at Tri-Cities High School after a basketball game on Friday night. And Atlanta News First reporter Asia Wilson has more on what the school is doing today to try and deal with this unimaginable loss.
Rocked this entire community, especially with one student dying and another stabbed in a parking lot here on campus. But grief counselors are here as students are returning and the principal making a promise to increase safety procedures. In the statement to parents over the weekend, the principal saying they are increasing their weapons detection system, safety personnel, and providing mental health resources for students grieving during this time. Now, this all comes after 15-year-old Mario Bailey was shot off campus after a dispute with someone. He later died at the hospital. Now, additionally, East Point police say another student was stabbed in the school parking lot in a separate incident and is now in critical condition. Concerns now running high for parents, students, and people in this community.
Yeah, that's terrible. Definitely just thinking about those parents, that's really bad.
It's incredibly scary to just go about your day, go to the grocery store, go to an event and fear that something like this could happen or something like this could happen to your child.
At last check, no word on any suspects in custody, but we do know this is still an ongoing investigation. As for Mario Bailey, Atlanta News First spoke to his mother on yesterday, who says she plans to honor her son very soon. In East Point, Asia Wilson, Atlanta News First.
Yeah, that is just such a reminder that, again, there's a challenge among young people. And I think you will not only see that in research, but you'll also see that when you talk to some of our officials who say that there's something that's got to be done to avoid situations like that from happening in our community because it's a harsh reality that we're dealing with. Well, happening today, a new court fight for embattled Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. This is after her admitted relationship with fellow prosecutor Nathan Wade. So if you've been keeping up with this story, you might have known and realized that, it's kind of had its share of drama. Willis hired Wade to work for her in the case involving, I should say, former President Donald Trump and his allies. And happening at 2 o'clock this afternoon, her own lawyers are going to fight to stop subpoenas of employees from Nathan Wade's firm. Now, those subpoenas are for Thursday for a hearing that could mean the end of both Willis and Wade on this landmark case. But we did get some insight from an Atlanta attorney who's chiming in about this and what this could actually mean.
Besides disqualifying Ms. Willis's office, that could end the case entirely. It would absolutely extend the time frame. And in the analysis of Mr. Trump's defense and his co-defendants, adding additional time to this schedule is a win.
Yeah, we know time is of the essence, especially within an election year, so we'll be waiting to see what happens there. And speaking of election year, because we know if you're on Instagram right now, you're always dealing with a couple of things. Seeing stuff that maybe you don't feel like seeing, or getting the unwanted opinions being posted and just shined right at you. And that is because that's how the algorithms typically work. Well, because it is an election year, there is one social media platform that has taken a different approach to what you're able to see on your feed leading up to November. Technology company Meta has decided to show users less political content. So on Instagram, you will only see political content from accounts that you choose to follow. Now, that same is going to apply to the photo app Threads, which is kind of a newer one if you haven't been using that one. But it's a little more on the newer side, but still people use it, and still there can be a lot of political content there as well. You will have the option to change this in your settings, and if you choose to want to get more political content recommendations, that is available. So it's not that it can't be done, it's just not going to be pushed onto the average user every time they get onto that social media platform. Okay, I might have to save the best story for last on this Monday after the Super Bowl. Atlanta was well represented last night during the Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. We had Atlanta's own Usher that took the stage headline for this halftime show. And you know what? It wasn't just him that was out there on the stage. He had a couple of other Atlanta greats that I would say were Atlanta icons who were also represented on that stage. And just to give you an idea before I even show you a clip of his performance last night, can we just talk about how he's had to add 2 more tour dates to Atlanta because of you guys snatching up all the tickets so fast. So the general sale for those tickets for a couple of dates that he had for October, those went on sale this morning at 10 o'clock. There was pre-sale this past Friday, and apparently during pre-sale, you guys snatched them all up. So I'm looking at it, and this morning, because yes, I am excited about trying to get in on the concert myself, and you will not believe that there were verified resale tickets, or maybe you would believe it, for $1,000 to be in the balcony all the way up high of State Farm Arena. So like most people, we're going to try again tomorrow. But back to the halftime show. Take a look at this just to give you an idea of how insane things were last night. That was the moment. That was the moment that has folks talking. It does. Talk about bringing the world to the A. That's what he did. And he also brought out Alicia Keys, will.i.am, her, Jermaine Dupri. You can see Lil Jon and Ludacris all right there. He had 13 minutes of nonstop greatness, if I say so myself. And he described his performance as a nice crescendo to his time in Las Vegas. So I'm curious to know, Are you planning on going to see him? You know, many of you probably went out and checked him out when he was out in Vegas. A lot of people were doing that, and I guess he's still finishing up his time in Vegas as of yesterday. And he probably woke up there this morning before he makes his way back onto Atlanta. But man, oh man, just to see him on the stage, to see so many, again, Atlanta greats out there on the stage, that was just incredible to see. Little John, we hadn't seen him in so long. Ludacris, we've seen recently because he was just on stage with Janet Jackson. He opened up for her, went on tour with her. So that was cool to see. And it's just impressive to see Atlanta literally being on the map. Atlanta has always been on the map, but there are a couple of different events that give Atlanta that credit and that the necessary jeu, as I like to say, to make it seem like Atlanta truly is the place to be, because there's so much talent here. There's so many incredible artists here, but oftentimes that doesn't always get highlighted because we see other things, that kind of overshadow that. So again, we'll be staying on top of this. If there are any more tour dates that are added, don't you worry. We will let you know here on the First Alert desk. But for now, again, if you want to get in on these new dates that have just been added, which are set for August, you have to try to get in on that pre-sale tomorrow starting at 10 o'clock through Ticketmaster, because those tickets are going to be all bought up. And you can't say that we didn't tell you. All right. So I don't know if we could take a live look outside, but I will just show you this just to give you guys just an idea of what our team of meteorologists have been staying on top of. You know what, actually, I won't give you an idea of that. I'm just going to let you know maybe a little bit more about the First Alert weather days and just a couple of the things that you need to know, again, before I toss it back over to Maria Moreau, our digital anchor, who has been doing such a phenomenal job on our extended coverage today. So I do want to let you know about the First Alert weather days, because often when you hear that, you may say, wait, does that mean First Alert? Does that mean First Alert weather day? What is the difference? Well, here's Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez explaining that for us.
I'm Atlanta News First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez. We issue First Alert weather days here at Atlanta News First to give you a heads up to changing weather. First Alert weather days can happen one time a week, twice a week, or several days during the week, depending on the incoming weather. And we issue First Alert weather days for various reasons. Our goal is to give you that initial heads up and First Alert that weather may impact your day. As soon as we know, you'll know to possible changes in the weather and impacts to you and your life. First Alert weather days can be issued for various reasons, including rain or storms that maybe impact the morning commute, the afternoon commute, or most of the day. Storms with lightning, with gusty winds, or even severe weather, including tornadoes. When we have a First Alert weather day for severe weather, we will make sure that you know that this is a high impact event, and we will be specific with impacts and timing on your day. Another reason we may issue a First Alert weather day on Atlanta News First is for big changes. It could be big changes in temperatures. Maybe we go from 70 degrees to 50 degrees in just 24 hours. Maybe a big temperature drop or a big warm up. The temperatures actually warm quickly in 24 hours. We can also issue First Alert weather days for morning fog that may impact the morning commute, or even evening fog, or strong gusty winds, wind gusts up to 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. These are just various reasons we may issue a First Alert weather day. Make sure you stay with the First Alert team. We will keep you safe and in the know of any possible changes to your weather forecast.
All right, and that was Chief Meteorologist Jen Valdez. Just want to show you, again, live radar right now. You're taking a look at this severe weather system that has just been moving through North Georgia. As we saw, if you were on the roads this morning, nasty conditions, heavy flooding, downpours affecting commutes for so many just trying to make it to their destinations. Again, we are following all of the impacts that are taking place in your community, whether you are impacted on the road, whether you are impacted in, traveling in the air, whether you have trees down and power outages, and what may have you. Our hardworking team here at Atlanta News First taking you out to where we are tracking the severe weather and its effects. Right now, I want to take you out to reporter Don Shipman, who has been in the First Alert road tracker, now on the scene of what appears to be a vehicle that became stuck in a stream. Don, can you hear us all right?
Okay, so here's what I want to tell you. This was just wild. You can look down here and you can see there's a fast moving stream right there, and you can see a piece of the vehicle. So I want to say about an hour ago they pulled the vehicle from this. It's a good 20-foot ravine. The SUV landed right down there, basically across that stream. The water is rushing today because the rain, all the rain we've gotten. So here's what happened. When the call came in to 911, initially came in as a water rescue. The driver managed to get out. Atlanta police are saying that that person that was driving the vehicle was alert and is okay. You can see that the vehicle actually had its airbags deployed as well. So that's how big of an impact it made right there. This ravine is just off of Marietta Road. It's between the West Side Station townhome community and then a general contracting business is right across from the ravine. And it appears that that vehicle came from that parking lot over in that business right there. Not clear on how the driver lost control, but again, the driver, that SUV going down a good 20 feet down into that ravine right there and had to be rescued from the vehicle. What a scary situation. It's not clear if the weather had anything to do with the driver going over the ravine, but bottom line, when the vehicle got down to the bottom there and you see how fast that water is moving, so lucky that the vehicle stopped and was teetering across the ravine and didn't end up in all of that water. And of course, that could have been a lot worse. Maria?
And Don, I know you can't see this, but we have a photo of that vehicle when it was stuck. When we initially got to the scene, showed on the left-hand side, of course, your visual that you're bringing us here on the right-hand side. You have been monitoring these weather conditions pretty much all morning and into what will soon be the afternoon. Talk to me a little bit about being on the roads yourself and experiencing that.
Yeah, as you take a look right here at this fast-moving stream here and a piece of the vehicle there, I mean, just how alarming is that? But earlier in the morning, we were traveling up and down 285 North and between Memorial Drive and La Vista Road. So that whole section right there, I want to say is maybe about a 5 to 6 mile stretch of 285 North. A lot of water. A lot of puddling on the road. Think about it. It's a good 4 to 5 lanes depending on where you are when you're traveling up and down 285 right there in one direction. And the left lane had a lot of pooling in it and in some areas actual flooding. And when it's early in the morning and we have so much traffic and it is dark, it is hard to tell what type of puddle it actually is, how much water is actually in the road right there. And I can tell you, we were driving up and down and we were not speeding. We're going the speed limit and under because of the rain. And you would hit some of that water and you would start to hydroplane. It was quite nerve-wracking. I was just kind of going to AAA's website to get some, insight into what do you do if you start hydroplaning? Well, the first thing you need to do is make sure you're giving yourself plenty of room in between you and the vehicle in front of you. And then if you do end up hydroplaning, don't slam on the brakes. That's the first thing we want to do, but you don't want to slam on the brakes. You actually want to lightly pump the brakes. That'll slow your vehicle down just enough so you can gain control. And also, if you are skidding, actually turn your wheels into the skid. That'll help your vehicle gain control, thus you gaining control as well. And I've actually posted all of these tips right in the Atlanta News First app and on atlantanewsfirst.com, so you can check it out, because it is really something you want to keep in mind when we get a lot of rain like this. It's been raining all night long and raining all morning long, so this is bound to happen. Maria?
Don Shipman, thank you so much. I know you are going to continue to keep us informed. You're joining us at Atlanta News First News at noon, coming up here in less than an hour, so we look forward to your report, checking in with you again on this severe weather system. All right, and I do just want to take you again one more time through some of these images that we got of this vehicle that ended up in the stream. Again, just a scary situation for the driver. Luckily, that driver was alert, conscious, and breathing. That's the update that we got from officials. Again, alert, conscious, and breathing. Great sign that nobody was significantly injured. However, significant damage to that vehicle. And just a reminder, whether you're dealing with flooding, whether some of you have told us you're dealing with fallen trees in your neighborhood, in your home area, an important reminder that you prioritize the safety of yourself and prioritize the safety of your family during weather events like these. Here in a couple minutes, we're going to get you out to reporter Patrick Quinn, who is also out in the community. We here at Atlanta News First take these weather systems very seriously, getting you as prepared as we possibly can for any and all weather events that could happen as we continue to take you through First Alert Weather Days. Again, part of that is making sure that we are in your community, showing you some of the significant impacts that residents, community members, people just like yourself watching are experiencing, and sharing that with you so that you could, one, make a plan for yourself if you are someone who has to step outside today, but two, just be aware of the situation and the impacts of a weather system like this. Again, showing you live radar and the rain accumulation right here. As you can see, significant amount of rain accumulation in a short period of time. Obviously not a good sign if you're a driver on the road, as we saw between the flooding, between water rescues that have had to happen today, between trees down on the roadways, a lot of impact stemming from heavy rain downpours coming out of this weather system. And again, I mentioned this before, I'll say it again, AAA did point out that it only takes 1.5 inches of rain for your vehicle to start hydroplaning. So very important during times like these that you are taking every precaution to be safe on the roadways and making sure that you have a plan before you even get on the road. Again, here in a moment, we're going to take you out to reporter Patrick Quinn, who I believe at this time is out at another water situation off of Piedmont Road in Lambert Drive, or at least he was earlier. We're going to check in here with Patrick and see the latest on what he is following and get you out there in a moment. In the meantime, I want to just show you what the conditions were looking like along Piedmont Road earlier. As you can see, right under the bridge, a heavy amount of flooding, and these drivers just slowing down to try to get ahead of this and make sure that they can make it through safely. This is not just one area of Atlanta experiencing this. This is a reoccurring flooding situation for so many, as you just saw from reporter Rebecca Schramm from Don Shipman. And now we're going to take you out to reporter Patrick Quinn with a look at how the roads are in his area. Patrick, can you hear me?
Maria, I got you, and we've actually moved on from Buckhead. We are in South Fulton County. We're in Fairburn along Spence Road, and you can see right here, we've seen a lot of this morning. This road's completely blocked off. Crews have already been out here today. They have brought this all down to just one lane of traffic. So in a moment here, you'll see some cars start to come. Here's one approaching, and it's one of those situations where just cars going north, cars going south sort of have to look at each other in their windshields and say, all right, whose turn is it? Because we are down to just one lane of traffic due to flooding on the roadways. We've really seen these flash flooding incidences all across Metro Atlanta as we've been driving across much of this region all morning long. We just came from a water rescue that was along I-285 in Jonesboro Road. A car had driven off of 285 into a ditch, was inside a pool of water, and it was just towed out. Atlanta police was there on scene as well. So a lot of different hazards across the metro this morning, and drivers just are having to sort of adjust accordingly. It's just one of those mornings. If you've got, the big rain pants and the boots, and they're not fashion forward per se, but they're functional. It's just one of those kind of days, and this rain's going to continue throughout the rest of the evening, and then wind to follow. Maria?
Patrick, you got an early morning start today just to get outside into these communities and report back on these weather conditions, moving from location, seeing these drivers on the road, being a driver on the road yourself. Talk to me about, standing out in all of this.
Yeah, it's been messy. It's been wet, and luckily I haven't had to drive my very capable photographer, Anthony. He has been behind the wheel, but there have been a few dicey situations for us as well. I mean, it's one of those mornings where you just need to be extra alert with your hands on the wheel. All of a sudden, a car will be swerving into your lane. You're swerving into another lane. You're trying to adjust for the weather. You're trying to adjust for the traffic that is adjusting to the weather. So, right, it's just one of those mornings. And yes, we were in Buckhead earlier. That was a hot spot. I have covered that spot for multiple rain events now. It's just the water pools on the roadway. Atlanta Watershed Management, they know about it. They've been out there. I've been out there with them in that spot in Buckhead. And obviously the message to drivers is just to take it slow. We saw a lot of some who felt more confident than others kind of dealing with issues just like this. But the big thing is, if you see it, take it slow and avoid the area really if you can, just to make sure that everyone's safe, because it's very deceiving. You can't always tell how deep something is until you're in the midst of it. Maria?
Yeah, Patrick, Rebecca was actually echoing those same words, saying these drivers, they'll slow down, but they'll still press on. And the smarter ones are just turning around and not taking those chances. I know you've covered severe weather events similar to these in the past before. Any common mistakes or I guess decisions you see drivers, pedestrians, people making on the roadway?
I will see from if you do get yourself stuck in a situation where there's water on the roadway, potentially just like this, you're seeing cars go through just like this. Now, obviously, the message is try and avoid the area. Do not drive through standing water. But if you do drive through standing water and it is pretty low on the ground, keep a decent pace. Don't go too slowly. Don't go too fast. Just kind of keep a decent pace. But again, if there is any water, try and avoid it as best you can. The good thing is now the sun is out. I mean, ish. It's light-ish. Last night, I was coming home from Super Bowl parties, and so many others were as well. It was dark, and you really can't tell. So that's when it's especially critical to kind of heed these warnings and kind of take this advice. So we'll be following things through the rest of the day. Here are some more cars right now going both directions, trying to avoid this sticky situation here on Spence Road in Fairburn. But yeah, we'll have to track how things go when the sun goes down. It will just make it that much more difficult to really discern how deep these waters are. So heed this advice, especially when the sun goes down later tonight.
Patrick, thank you so much. I'm really glad you're wearing a bright vest right now, making sure you're visible during some of these murky conditions. Please stay dry out there, you and Anthony both. We look forward to seeing you here back at the station.
Sure. Thanks, Maria.
Absolutely. All right, taking you through some of these other conditions that we reported to you earlier this morning. Again, this right now you're looking at Piedmont Road and Lambert Drive. This was in Buckhead. As you could see, some of these vehicles slowing down, realizing how deep that water goes. And again, it doesn't take a lot to start hydroplaning. And this not only in the Buckhead area, but then we took you out to Rebecca Schramm and some of these photos that she sent back of drivers also moving through as that flood watch remained in place. Clearly, you can see significant flooding in the area. And then most recently, taking you out to Patrick Quinn, reporter Patrick Quinn, standing off to the side of the road, but showing you just some of the water that continues to pool. So a fantastic excuse for you to stay indoors if you can today. If you are one of those people who are working today, who maybe have to pick up the kiddos from school, definitely make a plan for yourself. Make sure that you are staying as cautious on the roadway and as careful for both yourself and anybody that you might have as a passenger as we take you through some of these road conditions. Again, earlier we took you out to reporter Don Shipman just to show you a car that wound up in a stream. Luckily, the driver was all right. We did not hear of any significant injuries. Last we were told, investigators did say the driver was alert, conscious, and breathing. And of course, that is always good news, but significant damage to the driver's vehicle. still now has been pulled out of the stream. Of course, parts of that vehicle were still seen in the stream, but just really a nasty situation to be in today. With these types of flood watches, very important that you stay as prepared as possible, making sure that you understand the difference between a watch and a warning, and having a plan of action whenever you do hear us alert you of words like that. Right now, all of our meteorologists hard at work here at Atlanta News First, tracking this flood watch, tracking any potential warnings that might pop up. And as soon as they do, we will alert you, and we will continue to bring you live coverage here at Atlanta News First. But in the meantime, what we're monitoring is a flood watch that encompasses most of North Georgia. And with that, I do want to get you back out to Chief Meteorologist Jen Valdez with a little explainer on some of this terminology and how you should respond when you hear these words.
Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez. We issue first alert weather days here at Atlanta News First to give you an early warning that something is heading our way, whether it be fog, rain, or even severe weather. During the threat of severe weather, you may see a severe thunderstorm watch or a severe thunderstorm warning. It could also be a tornado watch versus a tornado warning. And I'm just going to talk briefly about the difference between the two and what they mean as far as you and your safety. A watch means that a severe thunderstorm or a tornado is possible. It means we are watching for the possibility of strong storms that could be severe. A watch is generally issued for a large portion of the viewing area and encompasses several counties. For example, it could be for all of far north Georgia or all of metro Atlanta, and it is issued for several hours or for a large portion of the day. A watch means that severe storms are possible in the next few hours. So those watches are issued as those storms are rolling in, just ahead of that and during the event. They usually have, or they always have, an expiration time. Sometimes they'll expire or be canceled a little sooner than the end time. And that time gives you a good idea of when the severe storms could happen over your area. So usually we'll say there's a severe thunderstorm watch until 3 p.m. And generally that means the threat ends at 3 p.m. The National Weather Service really good about canceling these watches if necessary, or even removing counties from the watch that may no longer be under the threat of severe weather. And again, a watch can be for both severe thunderstorms and for tornadoes. Warning is a very different situation. A warning means that the severe thunderstorm is happening or the tornado is happening, dependent on if it's a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning. When you have a warning for your area, you need to take action immediately. It means that the storm is actively happening. A warning is issued for a particular county or a cluster of counties. Sometimes we can have a severe thunderstorm warning for a couple counties or a tornado warning for a couple counties, but a warning is not as large. It doesn't encompass as large of an area as a watch does. A warning means that the severe weather is actively happening, and if you are under a tornado warning, you need to go to the lowest level of your home. You need to go to an interior room like a closet, protect your head, and stay there until the warning is expired or canceled. You don't want to come out of your safe space until the coast is clear. And when that tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning expires or is canceled, you know the coast is clear. Make sure you stay with the Atlanta News First Alert Weather Team. We will let you know if any bad weather is in the forecast, and we will let you know if a watch or warning is issued. If there is a tornado warning issued, we will be on the air with you 24/7 to keep you safe until the threat passes.
And again, showing you that rain accumulation, just to give you an idea of the severity of this storm system. Again, the main thing you're looking out for and you want to be cautious of is that flooding on the roadway. We've seen a lot of impacts, a lot of drivers that have found themselves in unfortunate situations out of that. As we continue to bring you your coverage, again, our hardworking team of meteorologists here at Atlanta News First are working around the clock to keep you updated. At 11:30, we like to do this segment called Weather Where You Are, just to hyper focus and give you some extended insight on weather conditions much like these. So with that, I do want to turn it over to meteorologist Courtney Jacobazzi with a look at today's Weather Where You Are.
Thanks so much, Maria. All right, everyone, good morning. We are going to discuss the flooding risk that we have. We're going to talk about some rainfall totals we picked up in the past 12 hours, and we're going to talk about the flood watch, and then we'll take you into your extended forecast just in case you're just tuning in and you need to get caught up on the weather. So today we do have a first alert weather day, and what that means is we have weather that's going to be impactful to you. Sometimes it's a high impact, sometimes it's a low impact, but on this particular day, I do think it's going to have a high impact on your day because, of course, the morning we've had the widespread rain and the flooding. We already have had multiple reports of flash flooding in roadways. And then this afternoon, we'll watch for storms, maybe some isolated severe weather as well. And then as we head into the later evening, the wind is really going to start to pick up. So a little bit of everything today that's definitely going to impact how you have to go about your day, how you have to travel around out and about. Lots of things to pay attention to in the forecast today. Here's a look at our flood watch. So we have a flood watch, which means that flooding is possible. And then when flooding occurs, that turns into a flood warning. And we do have a handful of those already. In fact, coming up on Atlanta News First at noon, if you want to tune in on air with our show, I'm going to go through a couple of the rivers and creeks that are already under flood warnings because we do have a handful. And we'll talk about some of the flooded streets that are out there as well. But this flood watch pretty much letting you know that we have the possibility for flooding through tonight. So even as the rain continues to diminish, all that water is going to trickle down. You know how rivers and streams flow. And so as they kind of trickle down throughout the day, that could lead to more flooding issues south of the city as everything kind of starts to flow south. So something we'll be watching for. And of course, if any runoff happens and kind of helps push the boundaries of the creeks and streams, we'll be keeping an eye on that for you as well. So just keep in mind that flooding will continue to be a possibility through the night tonight, especially river and stream and creek flooding. The road flooding, that threat should really start to subside unless we have a few storms this afternoon that produce really heavy rainfall totals, which is definitely a possibility. We'll be keeping an eye on that for flash flooding. The difference between flash flooding and just regular river flooding is that flash flooding is quick. You get a lot of rain in a short period of time, while river flooding and stream flooding, that usually gradually happens over several hours. It's a little bit of a slower process. But because of all the rain that we've picked up through the day today, that did lead to some flash flooding this morning. In fact, taking a look down towards Heard and Troup and Meriwether counties, they picked up 3 to even over 4 inches of rain. Where I queried was over in Meriwether County, southern Meriwether County, and they picked up over 4.5 inches of rain in just 12 hours. That's over a month's worth of rain in just half a day. So that led to some flash flooding problems down to the south of the city. Over 3 inches of rain being picked up over towards Coweta County, where we do have some river flooding happening right now. We also had some road issues down in Troup County earlier this morning as well, according to their emergency management director. So down to the south of the city really picked up a lot of rain. We had a band set up kind of this morning that trained over the same spot for several hours, leading to that flash flooding. But a general 2 to 4 inches of rain fell over the past 12 hours across the city. And that's a lot of rain for a short period of time, especially in a city like Atlanta, where I know we're a city in the trees and everything, but we still do have a lot of buildings and a lot of streets and a lot of concrete that clearly doesn't hold water and allow that water to percolate. So that can lead to all that water sitting on top of the road, which causes ultimately our flash flooding issue, which we did see throughout the morning. And again, coming up on Atlanta News First at noon, we'll go through some of the creeks and streams and even some streets that are experiencing that flooding. Still dealing with some rain out there. First Alert Radar will show you that we have some light to moderate rainfall still moving, a lot of it kind of drifting off to the northeast along a warm front that's moving in. So as we go through the day today, temperatures will hover generally in the low 60s, and that's warm for this time of year, but then we'll cool down as a cold front moves in later today. But along that cold front is where our severe weather threat lies. So right now, First Alert Radar, this is just before noon, just past 11:30 here. We have rain continuing, and notice the green box down near Columbus. That's a flash flood warning. So our flash flood warnings here at home have expired, but we still have the potential for some ponding in the roads, and also we still have that flood watch in effect where we'll watch for our rivers and creeks and streams to continue to kind of fill up through the day today. But right now, our flash flooding event, I guess you should say, is kind of over. We've had all of our flash flood warnings expire for the day today, but we'll still be keeping an eye on places, especially south of the city, because look at back out in Alabama, that little cell that's carrying that very heavy rain could move into Heard County or Troup County into the LaGrange area, and they've already picked up a lot of rain. So any extra rain is not going to percolate and kind of go into the ground, it's going to stay on top of the ground. So any extra heavy rainfall, that's going to stay on top of the ground, and that could lead to some additional flash flooding concerns, especially south of the city, which is where right now we are seeing some of that steady to even slightly heavier rain over in Fayette County, Coweta County, seeing some of that slightly heavier rain. So we'll be monitoring places south of the city, not only for rain, but also for the potential for maybe some severe weather later today. Let's take you through First Alert Futurecast here. So we'll continue our First Alert Weather Day through the day today, as long as the rain and storms continue and as we watch for our severe weather threat, which is isolated at best. It's not a widespread severe weather event today. We're not looking at any kind of outbreak situation by any stretch of the imagination, but an isolated threat is still a threat, so we want to get you ready for it. Let's take you through the afternoon around lunchtime, 12:30. A lot of the heavy rain south of the city, but still pockets of some moderate to heavy rainfall possible across Metro. It's just going to be damp out there. The roads are going to be wet. We're not going to get a really long break in the rain today at really any time through the afternoon into the early evening. So the roads are going to stay wet today. Just take your time. Don't be in a hurry to go anywhere today. Probably just best that you take it easy on the roadways throughout the day today. Now, as we go towards 2 o'clock, here's kind of our break. So at this point, our warm front's going to be lifting north of us. That's when we're going to obviously hit our high temperature, which just is kind of working in tandem with the natural cycle of the day, right? We normally hit our high temperature around 4 o'clock. Our warm front's going to be moving north of us at that time, so that's going to kind of help aid in our high temperature reaching into the low 60s through the day today. If you're south of the city, you could push 70 degrees today, which is where a lot of our energy is going to be, hence the slightly greater severe threat the further south of the city you go. So by 2:30, you're picking up the kids from school, maybe you're running some errands. That's probably going to be your best time. A lot of the rain will be north of the city, so unfortunately for people like Rome, over in Chattooga County, over in Hall County and Rabun County, Townsend Union, you're still going to be pretty wet, but you've had a nice little break this morning. You've definitely been the driest to start the day, so your turn will come a little bit later in the afternoon. Most of Metro will deal with just some light showers. Now at 4 o'clock, see this little cell that's popping up over near Griffin and LaGrange? We'll be watching that for any kind of severe storm, just an isolated severe storm, possible damaging wind, maybe some small hail, maybe a brief isolated tornado. It's possible. That threat's very low for us, but it's not none. That threat's definitely greater the further south you go into central Georgia, like Macon, down to Albany, down to Savannah, and then of course the Florida Panhandle as well. All of those areas have a greater threat for a brief isolated tornado than we do here in our viewing area in North Georgia. But we'll primarily be looking from LaGrange to Griffin to Eatonton for maybe an isolated tornado through the afternoon hours between around 3 and 7 will probably be our prime time frame for an isolated severe storm. Notice back out in Huntsville over in Alabama, there's our cold front. So the cell in LaGrange at this point and south of the city, that's out ahead of our cold front. That front moves in and will give us the opportunity for a few storms. As that cold front moves in, we're going to have this warm and moist air out ahead of it. That cold front will have this cold and dense air underneath, and what that will do is sink underneath that warmer air mass and lift everything up in explosive thunderstorms. Again, not necessarily severe, but still going to cause some noise, maybe rumble things around a little bit. And as we head into the late evening tonight, again, our focus transitions to the wind. It's going to get windy. It's going to get cooler. That rain will ultimately come to an end as we head into tomorrow morning. But you'll need the coat. So you'll ditch the umbrella and the raincoat you had this morning, and you'll need the winter coat tomorrow morning. Here's a look at the rainfall totals. We'll pick up maybe 0.2 of an inch to maybe over an inch of rain in some spots additional. So again, the flash flooding threat, not necessarily the greatest. That threat was definitely greatest in the morning hours, but we'll still watch for the potential for flooding. And of course, we have that flood watch for our rivers and creeks and streams through the evening tonight. So we'll keep an eye out for it. And of course, we still have the opportunity for some ponding in the roads, especially if some of those thunderstorms drop a lot of rain. Severe outlook, very low. In fact, this is the latest from the Storm Prediction Center, actually lowering the severe threat for all of Georgia to a level 1, which just essentially means an isolated threat. And that's really what we've been thinking all day long, is the threat is low. It's just not none, a very isolated threat for severe thunderstorms, which would be 58-mile-per-hour gusts or greater, 1-inch diameter hail, or of course a tornado, which would ultimately go into a tornado warning, but it's under the umbrella of severe warning. And so that threat extremely isolated for us, just not none. Tonight, lows drop into the upper 30s to low 40s. Pair that with wind gusts upwards of 35 to 40 miles per hour overnight. You're going to hear it whistling outside your window overnight. It's going to feel colder in the morning, like the upper 20s to low 30s. So again, grab that coat tomorrow morning. And then here's your wind gusts through the day tomorrow. All afternoon, we're talking gusts 25 to 35, isolated gusts as high as 40 through the day. Wouldn't be surprised if we get a wind advisory issued. I just think the National Weather Service is focusing on the task at hand right now, and then they'll move into the wind advisory later. Tomorrow, though, lots of sunshine, beautiful, mid-50s. Chilly, though, with the breeze. It's going to feel more like the 40s to low 50s just about all day. And take a look at your First Alert 7-day forecast. Mid-50s on Tuesday, so cool and windy. We have that First Alert weather day today. Can't stress enough that just take your time on the road and be weather aware. Have that First Alert weather app handy if any severe storms pop up, though an isolated threat, not none. Good idea to have that app handy. It'll let you know where those storms are and, of course, allow you to track when the rain comes to an end for your area through the day today. And then beautiful Valentine's Day, sunny, low 60s. We'll stay in the low 60s Thursday. Clouds build Friday ahead of another rain chance on Saturday. So that is another First Alert weather day. Just giving you a heads up. You're already thinking about the weekend, because who isn't? We'll have the chance for some showers potentially. Models are being a little indecisive on it, but for now we're giving you a heads up that it looks like Saturday, if any day of the weekend, has the potential for rain, and then Sunday it'll be chilly with temperatures in low 50s and sunshine returning. All right, everyone, thanks for joining me for Weather Where You Are. I'm going to go get ready for the noon show, where I will be here on the First Alert desk to give you an update on where we are currently seeing flooding and talk about our flood risk through the day as well. First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez will have your full forecast as well, so we sure hope that you join us for that. Thank you for joining me for Weather Where You Are, and we'll continue our coverage with Maria.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Courtney. Again, this is a daily segment that we do. Meteorologist Ella Dorsey joins us at 11:30 just to give you some extended insight into the weather that our meteorologists are forecasting. Any fun weather science that you might want to tune in for, that is the time to join us here on Atlanta News First Plus. Again, Weather Where You Are, you can find that on Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube Live. Join us every Monday through Friday at 11:30 a.m. I personally, I help produce the segment, but it is my favorite one to watch for our weather team. It gives them a little opportunity to connect with you guys on YouTube, to answer some of your weather questions and get really in depth with the weather science. So, all right, getting you back to your forecast again, this radar picking up. As you can see, we're still in the midst of this weather system. Earlier today, if you were with us on the stream, you saw more of that yellow and red coloring in the center portion of Atlanta, more in the Midtown area. Now it's moving east into Milledgeville, into Macon, moving, I want to say southeast. But again, we're going to continue to track that and bring that to you here in about less than 20 minutes. We'll get you back out on the roadways with our hardworking Atlanta News First reporters who are out in your community tracking these impacts before you have to get on the roads and find them out for yourself. A couple of you were reporting some impacts in your specific area, primarily with trees falling down, and that is a common occurrence when you talk about weather impacts, heavy rain, strong winds, anything of that nature. You're going to start to see some of those impacts with trees falling down, with power outages. The good news in all of this, and I'm going to take you through this here for my flyers at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. You can see here on FlightAware we're tracking some of any delays or cancellations. Not seeing too many of them for Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Actually, the last time I checked, and we can look at it now, there were about 12 flights that were experiencing impacts, mainly delays. So you're not seeing too significant of flight impacts. Again, with a severe weather system like this, that call can change at any time and they can ground all flights. That has not happened at this time. Very few people are experiencing those impacts. However, if you are, hopefully you're tuned into this and monitoring the weather conditions as we take you through them. And then Megan Lee checking the roadways. This is the Georgia Department of Transportation 511 page. Again, showing you any incidents and closures, including some of what we saw here on, including a car on the street on Marietta Road. Again, Piedmont Road flooded out completely in the Buckhead area, and then you had Marbute Road and Tafita Trail also seeing some of those pictures and just understanding that a car can hydroplane with 1.5 inches of water on the road. Some of these drivers are dealing with more than that. So if you can avoid anything like this, your best bet is to just seek some alternate routes. That is where tools like GDOT, tools like our First Alert traffic traffic reports for you. The Atlanta News First app will help keep you prepared. And then for those of you staying indoors, those power outages, tracking those for you as well. This is the Georgia Power outage map. As you can see, it's constantly evolving. Every time I check in on this, we are starting to see more power outages and then less. Right now, it looks like it's eased up from when we checked on it about 15 minutes ago. Earlier, more towards the Snellville, Lawrenceville area, you had a lot of customers, about 3,400 without power. That seems to have improved, but then you have pockets right here that pretty much align with the weather system where it is more severe. You're starting to see more power outages. And with that, I want to take you out to Better Call Harry with a look at how to respond and how to act if you find yourself in a situation where you are dealing with severe weather impacts such as trees falling down, power outages, and such.
Crashes through a roof. One of the homeowner's first priorities is to keep the damage from growing. Literally. Most, if not all, insurance companies require storm-damaged roofs to be tarped because once water gets in, mold starts growing in about 24 hours. Remediations cost thousands of dollars, and the claim could be denied if the insurance company determines that the homeowner didn't take steps to prevent it. Who tarps the roof? Not you, the tree removal company. And there are lots of them. If a tree service knocks on your door and offers to start immediately, take their card and get a quote. Get several quotes. Some of the best advice comes from J.D. Shamoon with 72 Tree. He's been specializing in catastrophic tree removal since 1969.
If you're looking to hire a tree specialist or a catastrophic claim handler, make sure he doesn't hurry you up and rush you to sign documentation or pay up front. A real professional doesn't need any money up front.
Yep, do not pay up front. Require proof of insurance and absolutely, under no conditions, pay the bill until the cut-up tree is off your property. The bad guys promise to come back and never do.
Again, important reminder there from Better Call Harry, our investigative reporter Harry Samler, always keeping you in the know about how to protect yourself, protect your wallet most importantly, especially when vulnerable situations like these happen. And with that, I did want to just give you an update on a tree down the report that we are following. This is in Decatur along Leisure Woods Drive. Again, with severe weather impacts just like these, the main thing that we see come out of this, fallen trees, power outages, and flooding. A flood watch still in effect as this radar will show you a severe weather system still making its way through Metro Atlanta and the North Georgia community. Again, taking you through some of these flooding photos, I cannot emphasize enough just the dangers of being on the road when you have a significant amount of rain accumulation. As we've been reporting to you, AAA has some advice for you. If you do have to get on the road, whether you are picking up your little one, you're making it to and from work, maybe you have an errand that just can't wait another day and you do have to step outside. You just want to take every precaution that you can to avoid a situation where you are victim to flooding. Again, AAA recommending that you slow down and leave room for other drivers. And if you do find yourself skidding or hydroplaning, which could happen in these types of situations, make sure that you are avoiding having any sudden reactions, including slamming down on your brakes, because that makes it a lot harder for you to control your car. You do want to remain calm and ease your car into a controlled state. So very careful, intentional movements with your vehicle, making sure that you're guiding it in a safe direction as best as you possibly can, and then understanding at what point that you do have to get emergency crews involved depending on your situation. Again, we are going to continue to follow, but important signs, one of which was up for you this morning on Atlanta News First. We kind of showed that to you. Make sure you're paying attention to flooding up ahead signs. Those will warn you of water that you do not want to cross. And with that, we do also have an update for you from the Department of Watershed Management that talking about some of this flood prevention. I just want to read this to you. Quote, if there is a forecast of heavy rainfall, high winds, and potentially localized flooding, or a weather advisory is issued for the city of of Atlanta that may bring about heavy rainfall, high winds, and localized flooding. The Department of Watershed Management crews work tirelessly to ensure that the stormwater catch basins and inlet structures are free of debris and sediment. This is particularly crucial in areas that are susceptible to flooding during heavy rainfall events. And then it goes on to say that DMV staff has taken the necessary measures to ensure that the safety of our work sites by securing them and making sure that all remote monitoring stations and cameras are in good working condition. During the event, we will continue to monitor flood-prone areas closely. Our storm preparedness plan has been implemented to guarantee that our treatment facilities operate continuously and comply with regulations. We have assembled crews and resources that will work 24/7 to address any issues that may arise. So again, important to know that emergency crews, water officials are very much aware of some of the flooding conditions and other water-related situations that we are continuing to report to you here on Atlanta News First Plus, and are responding. But important advice for you: if you do find yourself in one of these situations, make sure that you are contacting the proper emergency responders if you do find yourself in a situation where you do need that help, but also taking a proactive step in not crossing water that you are unsure of, making sure that you are avoiding any routes with closures so that you are not either putting yourself in a situation where you're stuck in heavy rainfall. And again, monitoring Atlanta News First, Atlanta News First Plus, and having a tool for you that will tell you of impending weather pattern changes, any sort of severe weather incidences in your area. We will report that to you both on Atlanta News First and Atlanta News First Plus. I'm going to take you now out to this live blog that our digital team here has put together, all of us working on this just to keep you updated on all parts of North Georgia and the metro Atlanta area. Again, as you can see, this kind of maps out the impacts and updates you on which roads are closed. A lot of the traffic impacts that you hear about in the Atlanta News First app, that is all laid out for you here. Earlier this morning, as more and more drivers were on the road, we saw some of these images and some of these reports come out, and it impacted a lot of people that were trying to just get go about their day, go about their drop-offs and getting to work and what have you. But a very important reminder that with these types of weather incidences, we try to alert you as quickly and as early as possible and fill you in as we go. As soon as we learn any changes with weather patterns or any incidences on these roadways, we will alert you both on Atlanta News First and in the First Alert Weather app. And with that, I do want to turn it over to Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez with a little deep dive of how the First Alert Weather app can come in handy during severe weather events just like this one.
I'm Atlanta News First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez. The First Alert Weather Team is working around the clock to keep you and your loved ones safe. And while we are on the air with you for much of the day on Atlanta News First and also on ANF Plus and on streaming devices, we also have a First Alert Weather app, and that's the best way to keep the Southeast's largest team of meteorologists in your pocket 24 hours a day. If you do not have that First Alert Weather app, it is a free download. And as you're watching our weather forecast on Atlanta News First, you notice we have this QR code in the corner of our screen. You can take a picture as if you're going to take a picture, put the camera on that, and it will allow you to download that app for free. The app is great because not only can you see the radar in real time, but also the app knows where you're located. So it's going to give you that forecast for where you are. So if you're in Peachtree City, if you are in Sugar Hill, if you are in Peachtree Corners, Alpharetta, Roswell, doesn't matter where you are, the app knows where you're located and it will give you the forecast for your area. Tells you the temperature, the cloud cover, the rain chances, and it will do that hour by hour throughout the day. On top of that, you'll find the 7-day forecast, the 10-day forecast. So when you watch our weather forecast on TV, we'll give you that 7-day forecast for Atlanta's most accurate forecast. On the First Alert Weather app, you can get the 10-day forecast. So you'll be in the know before everyone else who's just watching on TV. Another very cool feature on the app, besides the 10-day forecast, the hour-by-hour forecast for where you're located, is you can actually go under settings on the app and you can toggle lightning alerts on. That way, your phone, again, knows where you're located. You toggle the lightning button, make sure it's on green, and your phone will alert you if lightning is approaching. This is my favorite feature, especially in the summer months. Both of my kids are swimmers, so we are always in and around the pool or the lake or somewhere near water. So those lightning alerts are extremely helpful. You can also see the radar as well, and you can see the storms that are approaching your area. We do send updates throughout the day on the First Alert Weather app as well. So if there is a brand new First Alert Weather Day issued, you will be the first to know if you have the First Alert Weather app.
And just for all of you watching, planning about your day, I do want to give you a heads up about some flood warnings, which our First Alert Weather team will continue to bring you updates on and help you prepare for these. Somerville, Lovejoy, Peachtree City, Alpharetta, and Lithonia. You're going to want to pay attention to these specific flood warnings in your area. Again, if you have friends, loved ones, family members, parents especially in these communities, in these areas, make sure you alert them that they have flood warnings that they're going to want to watch out for, especially if they're planning to get outside today. And again, very much following the radar system, the heavy rainfall that we are continuing to experience, taking you out to some of these live shots that we are bringing you here on Atlanta News First. Our team of reporters out in your communities showing you some of these conditions so that you don't have to get on the roadways and find out for yourself. Again, a fantastic tool to have is that First Alert Weather app that Chief Meteorologist Jen Valdez just showed you. It prepares you for weather way before it even happens so that you could be prepared and make a plan for yourself, much like today. For those of you who have had the app, I'm sure that you knew about this before this weekend, that there was going to be a significant weather pattern that we were going to be taking you through, and hopefully you were able to prepare yourself and your loved ones for today. Again, this rain system, we are very much still in the thick of it. I just want to show you one more time here. The radar, if I can get it pulled up for you, and the rain that just keeps coming down here. Again, now moving southeast away from the Peachtree, Carrollton area and more towards Covington, Macon, Athens, Augusta. You are about to get really the thick of all of this, and hopefully you've been tuning into our coverage, tuning in to the weather alerts that we've been sending out since before 4 o'clock this morning, and being prepared for situations like this so that you could make sure that you and your loved ones are as safe as possible as we get through this weather system. I am going to leave this radar up for you here in a moment. If you're watching this on YouTube Live, we'll get you one final look out at the conditions from our Atlanta News First reporters, Rebecca Schramm, Patrick Quinn, Don Shipman, taking you through various parts of the metro Atlanta area with a look at the conditions on the roads. And of course, our Atlanta News First team of meteorologists, Chief Meteorologist Jen Valdez, Courtney Jacobazi will give you some added perspective on this weather system and how you can go about planning your day. With that, thank you so much for joining me here at the First Alert Desk on Atlanta News First Plus. Again, download the Atlanta News First app and the First Alert Weather app. Both of those tools extremely important for tracking your road conditions and making a weather plan days ahead of a significant weather event like the one we're experiencing today. And if you're watching on YouTube, again, push that push notification button. It will alert you anytime we jump on with breaking news and weather streams just like this one. And of course, if you subscribe, you will also get alerted, and you can tune into our regularly scheduled content as well as our breaking news alerts. Thank you so much for joining us here at the First Alert Desk, taking you back out to radar as we prepare to take you live out to Atlanta News First News at noon, and one final look at the conditions outside. Have a great day.
Is almost over the entire area. Most of us seeing light to moderate rain, but still seeing some bits of moderate to heavy downpours. Good news is no lightning right now, but I do expect lightning, some storms, and even possibly some strong storms this afternoon. So do not let your guard down. Some severe weather still possible this afternoon. Right now, everyone getting rain across all of metro Atlanta and most of North Georgia, even some heavier rain to our east, heading towards UGA, Athens, through Commerce, Putnam County, through the city of Eatonton, some heavier downpours there. And then you got to look at what's to come to our west. The actual cold front still to our west, where we do see some lightning south of Tuscaloosa. This is the line that will move through this afternoon, bringing us the threat of severe storms. So hour by hour we go, 2 o'clock, still seeing some rain. Notice the coverage will decrease, but the intensity will increase. So although we're not going to see as much rain this afternoon, any one of these little storms could briefly be strong, if not severe, especially south of I-20. That is where some stronger storms are possible. Good news is the severe weather threat has been reduced for today. Earlier, some of us south of I-20 were under a level 2 threat of severe weather. The severe threat has diminished, but still a level 1 threat for all of North Georgia. That means an isolated severe storm will be possible. One of the biggest concerns beyond the threat of severe storms this afternoon is more additional downpours and subsequent flooding, something we've already dealt with. For more on that, let's head to meteorologist Rodney Harris, because we've had a first alert weather day today because of this rain, and it's already causing issues.
Yes, we gave you a lot of notice, Jennifer, and as you can see behind me, this is because of flooding. 285 north at Shamley Tucker Road, right before you hit Spaghetti Junction, I-85, we have delays, and there has been water off and on the road here on 285 north for like 8 hours. So just a heads up for those of you in the Spaghetti Junction area, as you go northbound, you will be delayed. As we zoom out and take a look at the rest of Metro Atlanta, we do have the first alert radar on top of the traffic map, so you can see where the heaviest rain is compared to where you have to drive. You're trying to get out there this afternoon and drive, it's still going to be bad. Travel conditions are not great in Metro Atlanta because it will continue to be wet with rain out there. Now, this evening, we're going to drop it to being okay for travel. As First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez mentioned, the coverage of rain will start to go down, but there will still be some pop-up storms out there as you're driving home from work, so that won't be great. However, here's the good news. After 8 p.m., you'll be good to go to travel. So if you're headed out to dinner tonight, when you go to dinner, it'll still be raining, but by the time you come home, you'll be in good shape. We'll keep you up to date on the road. Some more First Alert weather and traffic to come.
Okay, Rodney, good to know. Thanks. Now, our First Alert weather coverage continues with a look at what is happening on our roadways right now. We have crews spread out, so you know exactly the problem areas to avoid. And Atlanta News First reporter Rebecca Schramm is live in the Redan area of DeKalb County.
And Rebecca, some street flooding there seems to be posing a risk for drivers.
Yeah, Rick and Lana, we've seen quite a bit of street flooding here. I am off Panola Road, and this is the little intersection here. We've seen a lot of cars come awfully close to stalling out as they drive through here. And with the rain continuing to come down, the flooding here could get worse. This is one of those intersections that when there's a heavy downpour, it floods. And it's clear some who live around here aren't afraid to drive through it anymore.
They'll see it and just keep going. They'll take a chance.
Rondi Williams lives right here at Marbut Road and Taffeta Trail. Have you ever seen a car stalled in this intersection?
Yes, ma'am. There's the last major one that came through here. They stalled out actually in the water.
Half people think that they could do it, but it's deeper than what it really looked like.
Michael Bugg owns a tow truck company. He's had to pull several cars from this intersection over the years.
What's the worst you've seen?
An accident. Yeah, a car went over in a ditch. But it is what it is.
We saw several cars turn around, deciding it wasn't worth the risk, but we were amazed at how many low-profile cars drove right through it, hoping for the best. You won't see Rondi and his wife taking that chance.
My cars are not going through that.
And taking another live look, I can tell you the good news is this is not the only way in and out of the neighborhood, so it might be worth it to just take a couple of minutes and go the long way. Live in DeKalb County, Rebecca Schramm, Atlanta News First.
The scenic route on this beautiful rainy day. Thanks, Rebecca. An SUV plunges 20 feet down a ravine and teeters across a fast-moving stream.
Yeah, we started hearing about this during our morning show, and Atlanta News First reporter Don Shipman continues our team coverage in Northwest Atlanta. Don, what happened?
Well, we know that that SUV came flying over this ravine and then went right down into that area there. And basically right across the fast-moving waters, you can still see some of the debris from that SUV. That piece of metal right there is the door. And you know what? Take a look, because it landed right across the water. Can you imagine? So when 911 got the call, it initially came in as a water rescue. The driver managed to get out. Atlanta police saying that they were alert when they got that call. And you can see the airbags actually deployed. This ravine is just off of Marietta Road. It's in the 2000 block. It's between the West Side Station townhome community and a general contracting business as well. It appears that the vehicle came from that business parking lot, which is across the ravine from where we are. We do not know the extent of the injuries for that driver, but we know that that driver was taken to the hospital to be treated. What a scary situation. We're still trying to figure out exactly how and why that driver ended up going over the ravine. We'll keep you posted on all of that. For now, though, we're live here in Northwest Atlanta. Don Shipman, Atlanta News First.
All right, Don, thank you. Well, this weather posing problems for people from county to county. Let's go to South Fulton with Atlanta News First Patrick Quinn and some road impacts there. Patrick.
Hey, Rick, we're on Spence Road here. This is near Oakley Industrial in Fairburn, South Fulton County. And take a look at what we're looking at right now. Certainly some flash flooding, and it is impacting roads here. This road completely blocked off. And as we see traffic start to mosey its way down here, you'll notice northbound and southbound, they sort of have this sticking moment where you look each other in the eyes of the driver in front of you, say, is it your turn? Is it our turn? We're seeing a lot of this across the metro this morning. We were in Buckhead earlier, certainly some flash flooding there. We saw a water rescue along I-285 at Jonesboro Road Southeast about an hour ago. That driver was luckily rescued safely this morning, and here we are in South Fulton County and down to one lane from this standing water. And the real issue for the rest of the day is when it gets dark, it's really hard to see, to discern how deep that water is. So if you see any signage like this, certainly as the evening progresses and the sun dies down, certainly take your time on the roads tonight. We're seeing still a lot of standing water across the metro. Rick?
All right, Patrick Quinn, live for us in South Fulton. You don't want to be not in the know when it comes to severe weather hitting your neighborhood. Stay ready day to day with our free Atlanta News First weather app. All you have to do is scan the code on the screen and download it. It'll take you directly to the App Store.